everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I am back again to do my February favourites. It's weird to say that we are in the month of February already, that we've been in the month of February already, even because I'm filming this in March. I'm a few days late, but I've had stuff going on. I read some amazing books in February, and I cannot wait to tell you all about them. It was a really good reading month for me. I read a lot of new authors that I've never read before, which was really interesting, as you can see by my arm excitedly waving and doing a little dance. A lot of thrillers were in my top books read. I did do a top reads on my Instagram, but I always like doing a little more of an in-depth video because I feel like it gives people more of an idea of what the books are about and how much I love them and why. So without further ado, we'll get on to the books. So the first book that I am reviewing and highly rated of February is Metal Slinger by Rachel Snyder. I'm probably butchering that name. I always butcher the names when it comes to YouTube videos, and I apologise for that deeply. But this book took me massively by surprise. I had listened to a lot of people where they said there was a massive plot twist, and oh my god, there was a massive plot twist, but it was not till the very end, and I was not expecting it at all. Metal Slinger is a new fantasy romantasy. I'm gonna read the blurb, but the blurb is in the book, as per usual with hardbacks, so it might take a minute. But can we also just take a minute to appreciate how beautiful that cover was? One boat, one bed, one jaw-dropping plot twist. Even though she's not one of them, Bryn has spent her life among the I couldn't, when I was reading the book, I couldn't figure out how to pronounce this, and I still can't. Alaha, a community exiled to live at sea, training to be a guard and waiting for the chance to attend the annual market hosted by the Kenta, the very same people who exiled her adopted community. Getting to the market is a rite of passage. Going to the market is a rite of passage eagerly anticipated by all young guards, but Bryn does not anticipate breaking a century-long peace treaty while there, or for an intense encounter with an enemy soldier to threaten fragile peace between their people and everything Bryn once believed to be true. Soon, Bryn's loyalty to the Alaha is tested when an unexpected visitor tracks her down. None other than said enemy soldier, sworn under oath to awaken Bryn to her true identity. Sent to sea and feeling more alone than ever, that a world of denied magic is unveiled. With rumours of a growing rebellion, Bryn's future has never looked so unsure. She was once certain of her fate and where she belonged, but the dark, knowing eyes of this stranger have her questioning everything, including her heart. Metal Slinger is the first in a romantasy duology from the global book talk sensation Rachel Snyder. Full of seafaring adventure, knife fights, witty banter, and slow burn tensions, discover why readers everywhere are calling Metal Slinger the book with the plot twist that broke the internet. I do highly agree that Metal Slinger was the book with the plot twist that broke the internet because it broke my brain. I got to the end of the book, wanted to throw it on the floor, wanted to run it over with my wheelchair, wanted to do everything but look at it for like the foreseeable because it was that much of a plot twist that I did not see coming. However, I did highly enjoy it. I'm scared to read the second book because after reading the first and knowing what happens in it, I don't want any more plot twists. Like the first was enough, but knowing it's a duology and not a trilogy means that there can't be too much left. Hopefully, I pray, because it was like emotional trauma. It was that good. I rated it 5 stars. I think it's one of my first actual romantasies of the year, which is very intriguing for me. I thought I would go for something a bit different, but I was reading it as part of a book club, so that's why I read it. I can't lift it up again, so we'll just deal with that as it is. But yeah, this was my review of Metal Slinger by Rachel Snyder, and I rated it 5 stars. On to the next book we go. This next book that I'm going to talk about had me in its grip for as long as I was reading it, which wasn't long because I read it pretty quickly. This is No Safe Place by Hannah Brennan. It's the first in the DCI Fields thriller series, I believe, that Hannah Brennan is writing. And I have interacted with Hannah on Instagram, and she is the most wonderful human, one of the most wonderful humans and authors you could ever connect with. She's amazing, and this book goes to show just as to how amazing she is. I will say, if you've suffered with mental illnesses, especially things like OCD, this might not be the book for you, because it does touch very heavily on that topic. I thought it brought great awareness. It taught me some things that I didn't know. You could tell she'd researched, and in her acknowledgements she even talks about how she has some lived experience with this, which I thought was remarkable to bring to a thriller series. And I thoroughly loved it. It was a 5-star thriller read for me. I find thrillers really interesting when I give 5 stars, because it will depend on the characters, the plot, the story in general. But this one had me from the get-go, and I absolutely loved it. You can't hide from the past. 5 vulnerable teenagers took part in a life-changing study of OCD. Now, 15 years later, their psychologist is brutally stabbed and left for dead. DCI Liz Field and her team have barely been able to start the investigation when there is another frenzied attack, and this time, the victim is one of the former patients. Are the rest now in grave danger or dangerous? As the DCI and her team are pulled deeper into the disturbing case, it hits too close to home. To outwit the murderer, Field must venture into the last place she wants to, her own buried past. I, like I've said, thought this was an absolutely exceptional read. It touched on mental illness, OCD, what living with it can be like, but also what being a family member of someone who suffers with that can be like. It was thoroughly enjoyable, gripping to the end. I could not guess who the actual suspect was going to be till I read it, and then I was like, oh, that makes sense. But I love that it was able to do that to me, and I highly recommend this book. It's also, I believe, Hannah Brennan's first debut thriller novel. It might actually be her debut novel in general. So without a shred, you should definitely read this if you're looking for a new thriller to read. Again, it was a 5-star read, and it was Hannah Brennan, No Safe Place, and I'm gonna go on to the next book again. Next, I'm really happy because I'm going to talk about how I thoroughly enjoyed reading Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, but I also love it for the reason that it's that chunky, it stands up on its own, which means my arms are free for one of the books for this video, which I am overjoyed with. I absolutely loved Robin Hobb. I loved the first trilogy I read of hers, which was the Farseer trilogy. This is the Live Ship Trader trilogy. Same universe, same amazing background of characters. Well, different characters, same universe. Some really amazing moments throughout this whole book. This was the first book. Again, for a Robin Hobb book, it's 800 and something pages, so if you're not into long epic fantasies, this is not for you. It's definitely a high fantasy, definitely an epic fantasy. It's just so amazing, and I could sit and talk about how much I love Robin Hobb as a epic fantasy writer for days, but I think I'd bore you all, so I will read the blurb instead. Wise wood, the most precious commodity in the world, comes only from the rain wilds. But only a live ship can negotiate the perilous waters of the Rainwild River, and live ships are hard to come by. They quicken only when 3 family members from successive generations have died upon their deck. The live ship Vivacia is about to undergo her quickening. Alethea Vestrit waits for the ship that she loves more than anything in the world to awaken, but her dream of taking her father's place at Vivacia's helm is not to be, for her family have other plans, and the dark, charming pirate Kenneth also lusts after such a ship. He well knows the power of wizard wood and has plans of his own. This cast of characters is so complex, it's really hard to describe if you haven't read a Robin Hobb book before. But I equally love how brilliant her characters are, but how easy they are to understand. With epic fantasies, I often struggle with the depth that some authors go into, and this was absolutely perfect as a first book in a trilogy for me. It gave me lots without giving me a headache, and that is always a great thing for me, especially as I struggle to hold really big books. So if they're not capturing my attention, they're not worth the arm ache. But Robin Hobb is definitely worth the arm ache of holding this big chunky book, because by the end you immediately want to go on to the second one. However, I am holding off because I don't have many of her books left, and I'm very sad about that. I'm waiting to get more. She just released like the dragon one, the Rainward Chronicles, with this cover, I think more popularly. So I'm very excited about that. I've been struggling to find them in Waterstones for a while, but that's a different series. But yes, Ship of Magic, the live ship traders, book 1. It's absolutely amazing. A great magic system that isn't actually based on humans. It's based on nature and ships and being at sea and pirates, and it's just awesome. There is, I will say, maybe more than a few mentions of like slavery, slaves, slave trade and stuff like that. But because Robin Hobb has based most of her books, I believe, what I want to say is like a medieval fantasy vibe. There is a lot of talk of slaves and slave trade because that's just what it was like in that setting. So if you're uncomfortable with that, maybe this isn't one for you. But I would say don't rule it out. It isn't the end and be all. It plays a big part in this series, not as much the Farseer trilogy, and this was another 5-star read for February for me. And yeah, I'm rolling these books off one by one, but I think I've just got that many to go through, so I think we'll just go straight to the next one. Now, this is another thriller that I read, and I finished it most recently at the end of February. My love for Alice Feeney is growing and growing and growing, and I absolutely loved Beautiful Ugly. This is her 7th book, and I want to say I enjoyed it more than Rock, Paper, Scissors that I read last month. It actually had me on the edge of my seat. It was that fascinating. Please don't say anything about the Broken Spine. It helps me read them before we judge my Broken Spine books. Yeah, she is an amazing thriller writer. I hope she never stops. I hope she keeps writing books, and I hope I keep enjoying her catalogue of books as much as I am right now. So this is Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, and it says, the million-copy best-selling queen of twists, Alice Feeney, returns with a gripping and delicious dark thriller about marriage and revenge. Author Grady Green is having the best day of his life. Grady calls his wife as she is driving home to share some exciting news. He hears Abby slam on the brakes and get out of the car, then nothing. When he eventually finds her car by a cliff edge, the headlights are on, the driver door is open, her phone is still there, but his wife has disappeared. A year later, Grady is still overcome with grief and desperate to know what happened to Abby. He can't sleep and he can't write, so he travels to a tiny Scottish island to try to get his life back on track. There, he sees the impossible. A woman who looks exactly like his missing wife. Wives think their husbands will change, but they don't. Husbands think their wives won't change, but they do. This was an absolutely amazing book full of twists and turns that I could not have guessed till the very end, and I was absolutely gobsmacked to say the least. I don't want to say much about this one without because I don't want to give too much away. But if you're into evil, massive feminist empowerment, and I'm hitting myself because I'm excited. Yes, if you're into basically evil female empowerment, this book and its ending will be perfectly up your street. I was, like I said, I was absolutely gobsmacked, but I did massively enjoy it, and Alice Feeney just seems to be the gift that keeps on giving. But I do not want to say too much about this book because I feel like if you read it, you'll see for yourself what I mean. So this is my quick-ish review of Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. Now, I do fear I may be a little bit behind in the contemporary lit genre of reading, and that is really because it's just not one. It's not my go-to. It's not one I pick up. But I chose Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors for my book club read of the month, which is I read it for the book club that I run. Our theme of February was relationships, and I actually had a really nice time reading this. I'm not going to say it wasn't emotional because no one warned me about some of the topics that were covered in this book, so I'm going to warn people now. If grief, addiction, mental health is something that you struggle reading about, do not pick this book up. I'm one of those that can read about stuff like that and be absolutely fine. But I know for a lot of other people that it could cause some issues. And it didn't have any trigger warnings going into this, which I was kind of surprised about, especially with some of the stuff they talked about. However, I think Coco Mellors does do a great job of representing the awful side of living with a chronic illness and being reliant on medication, without saying too much about the actual book. I was trying to stand that up. Bear with me. Yeah, she did an amazing job, and she definitely deserves a round of applause for how she did portray one of the characters' issues with living with a chronic illness, and also the other characters' issues with grief and addiction. However, yeah, if someone had told me going into it how dark it was going to get sometimes, I might have gone, ooh, why not read this when it's still winter? But I did. I'm glad I did. I did love it. I loved the characters. And I'll read the blurb before I talk a bit more about my feelings once I put my glasses back on. As I was saying before, this weird jump that you'll have seen where I had to edit out someone coming through the filming area, which actually is the bedroom, so I shouldn't really be too mean about it because I can't help it. I was going to read the blurb, so I'll continue with me trying to read the blurb. A sister is not a friend, you're part of each other right from the start. The Blue Sisters have always been exceptional and exceptionally different. Avery's a straight-laced lawyer living in London, though she's keeping secrets that could undo her perfect life forever. Bonnie was a boxer turned bouncer in LA, but one reckless act has driven her out of the city, and Lucky's hard-parting ways are finally catching up with her in Paris. Then there was Nikki, the beloved fourth sister, whose unexpected death a year ago left the others reeling. When the three remaining sisters reunite in New York to attempt to stop the sale of their childhood home, they find that it's only by returning to each other that they can navigate their grief, addiction, and heartbreak, and learn to fall in love with life again. I absolutely love this book, and one of the reviews by the Evening Standard said it's actually Little Women, but for the contemporary female experience, and I think that made me fall in love with it more. I maybe didn't pick up on that review before I read the book, but after reading it, I completely understand why, and it makes it even more lovable to me. So yeah, I absolutely love The Blue Sisters as a contemporary lit read. Like I said, I don't often read contemporary lit. It's not something that often calls out to me, but this felt really relatable in a lot of ways, and yeah, I am really excited now to read more from Coco Mellors in the future. But this was Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. The last book that I'm going to talk about is Tornado Warnings by my friend and indie author Abby Wales. Abby has written so many books in this past year. It's absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait to see her grow. Tornado Warnings holds a very special place in her heart. It is 1.5 of a series. I believe I talked about possibly Because I Liked a Boy, which is the first book in the series in one of my previous videos. But Tornado Warnings is a romance novel on two characters that you meet in Because I Liked a Boy. The tropes are accidental pregnancy, second chance romance. There's a lot about family trauma in it. There's a lot of other interconnected stuff to do with the other characters in the universe, but it mainly focuses on Ruby and Theo, and I absolutely fell in love with this book. It doesn't help that Abby emotionally destroyed me with this book because it features a premature baby born at 20 weeks, which is absolutely both exceptionally heartwarming and also really tear-jerking as a preemie myself. I absolutely loved Ruby and Theo in this book, and it was a tearjerker from the get-go. Both have never experienced the love they deserve, and they find that with each other and their little baby. I'm not going to give away what the gender of the baby is, because Abby hasn't, and I don't want to ruin any surprises that Abby has kept for authors herself. But I read this book in an hour and a half. It was 200 something pages, and I read it in an hour and a half, which is how you know I absolutely was emotionally attached from the get-go. And I did direct message Abby afterwards, screaming at her, saying she'd made me cry and why. We had a good talk. It was all right. But this blurb says, for the readers who refused to let Ruby and Theo fade into the background, this is your story. Growing up side by side, they fell quietly, secretly, hopelessly in love. Neither spoke it, neither dared risk it. But one night changed everything, and an unexpected baby means the truth can't stay buried anymore. Ruby Meadows never thought that Theo Stone would choose her. Theo never believed he deserved it. They were childhood friends, and now they have to confront what's been building between them for a lifetime before it slips through their hands again. If you've never read indie authors, you definitely should, because they can honestly write the most amazing books, and people never have any idea about them. And Abby is one of those writers that I think will always deliver. I have another one of her books signed up for March, so you'll hear about her again in one of my other videos. Probably a lot of my videos, in all fairness, because I adore her writing. And of course, her first series that I read had Sabrina Carpenter song titles as the titles of the books, which drew me in even more. But yeah, this is Tornado Warnings by Abby Wales, a brilliant indie author who deserves all your support. Well, that was my February favourites and kind of reading wrap-up video. I don't really know what to call these videos yet. I might start calling them like my monthly favourites. It's like this video will be February favourites, but bear with me, I'm working on it. I'm trying to post more. I know I said that last month and I only posted one video and a couple of reels, but bear with me. Trying to find time to film and people are in and out is very difficult. I'm loving doing these videos. I'm loving catching everyone up on what I've been reading. I find it quite cathartic and therapeutic to talk about all the books I've loved. I'm really hard to do videos like this with, I think, because I'll never do like books that I didn't like, because I'll always find something to love. But I meant what I said at the very last book, that people definitely should support indie authors more often. Traditionally published and popular books are great, but indie authors are the new wave of authors and writers who deserve just as much appreciation, and I think they're absolutely fabulous. I know several now, and they're all genuinely amazing, gorgeous human beings. And yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I look forward to filming another one, maybe at the end of the month. Maybe it might be a birthday haul, because my birthday is in March and I'm very excited about that. But I'm massively looking forward to filming more content. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and leave any video ideas down below in the comments. And also let me know if you've read any of these books or if you've got any suggestions for me to read in the future. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.